This is what everyone is talking about. This is what everyone is watching. Jiulize maswali if in this context you are not everyone. Occasionally the majority is right. Naongelea Anam's Wake, Likarion Wainaina's latest film, a psychological thriller. Before kuendelea kwanza, kauko hapa, allow time. Things don't want you to, the never satiated algorithm doesn't want you to, but do. Think with me, feel with me. Hii ni an act of taking time. Anam's Wake ni story ya Anam, a professional mourner who summons death to negotiate passage ya the dead into the afterlife. Hii ni role ali-inherit from her mother, Nyawera, aliyekufa 16 years ago. Nyawera made death their business. Anam is tasked to conduct a mourning ritual for James Ebale, a wealthy patriarch who has just died. At this wake ndio kila kitu ina unravel. Likarion Wainaina ndiye mwandishi, Wanjiru Njoroge ndiye producer. Anam is played by Marima Wanjiru, Nyawera by Brenda Ngeso, James Ebale by Ben Teke. Characters wengine ni negotiator, played by Samson Omondi, Stella, who is Anam's friend, played by Maureen Muthoni, and Kavata, Anam's aunt, played by Ruth Apondi. Halafu the Ebales, Mason Ebale, played by Peter Kawa, Zuri Ebale by Gathoni Mutua, Amani Ebale by Vanessa Okeyo, na Kwame Ebale by Pras Jadi. Nina thoughts, nazishare in the following sections: title, style, technique, editing, depth and nuance, lugha, na notes on other things. So stay with me, think with me, feel with me, alafu tupatane kwa comments now. Now, I've been having fun spending time in my head musing kuhusu Anam's Wake. Also, nimeiona once. Nasema hivyo ndio nikuwe na excuse just in case. Na sikuchukua any notes as I watched. Also, Missy Film Pandit. Title. A reading of the title in two ways. One, the obvious one. Anam's Wake. Ana conduct this significant ritual on behalf of her aunt Kavata. Hii ndio her becoming through this ritual ile her feel ready for.
Uko tayari?
2. Naisoma pia as Anam's Wake. Si tu wake ya James Ebale, but pia ya Anam, who has been numb for 16 years. She has been metaphorically dead since kifo cha mamake, but transition yake ni reversed. Anam's Wake leads to her awakening. Style, technique, editing. I'm a fan of minimalism. Kwanza, the locations. Na vile this approach enhances the story and emotions. The film does so subtly. Kuna the opening scene near the first ritual, the outdoor scene near the second ritual, which also includes an indoor shot ya interactions za Kavata na timu yake ya mourners. The morning after, kuna an outdoor scene nje ya gate as people depart. Kuna keja ya Stella, Anam's friend. Kuna the architecture class scene. Kuna hosi after Kavata collapses. Alafu keja ya the Ebales, the main location of the film. Most of the locations ni indoors. The primary one is the locus of transformation for all the characters hapo, na importantly, Anam. Kuna another symbolic element to the house which I'll get to baadaye. Cha pili kuadisia on minimalism. Time. While the two main events which lead us to the Ebales happened 16 years ago, vifo vya Zara na Anam's mother, in the present, the events last for about 3 days, for just a few hours each. Night Anam anashindwa kuwail na kusummon negotiator. Following morning, briefly nje ya keja the bereaved, briefly at Stella's, briefly in class, then briefly akivisit Kavata hosi, halafu the following evening at the Ebales. It's a condensed period. Anam's Wake has a powerful na evocative way ya kutumia elements ka lighting, music, na sound, composition na blocking to bring the story to life. Hii ni from the first scene. Tunaona power ya ritual, hiyo out of body spiritual experience through kucheza na slow motion na sound editing. Na hata the action cut that transitions from Anam's mother to Anam singing the same song and attempting kusummon negotiator. This simultaneously conveys passage ya time na the passing down of tradition. Hizo aforementioned technical aspects zina build mystique na command ya negotiator. He's eerie na majestic. Costume yake pia ni befitting, down to the tattooed feet. Vile ako place moja in one moment, ingine in the next, ama hatumoni kwa frame at all, then suddenly anatokea, build the mystique na command. Of course pia his dramatic entrances. His second one, akiwa summoned way before Anam even attempts to, which remind me kwa comments why and how this happens that early. Anatokea kwa mlango ya the Ebales na wenzake dressed in similar outfits. Their arrival reminds me of the season 1 finale of American Gods kwa Ostara's party, the arrival of the new gods. Kuna a rotating shot of the negotiator na Zuri when Zuri narrates her story, halafu wanatumia the same shot Anam akinegotiate na negotiator that atumie body yake kusaidia Zara na Ebale's family once and for all. Hizo shots zina depict dominance ya negotiator, the swirling thoughts and emotions of Zuri na Anam, and the tension and intensity between them na negotiator. Another thing regarding direction na editing, the nonlinearity in some instances reflects the nature of spiritual experiences. For instance, tuko present, then tuna teleport na Anam to the opening scene where her mom dies akinegotiate. Wana reveal the details of her death. Hiyo conversation with the negotiator vile alijisacrifice for her daughter's grief. Another instance, the epitome of kutumia nonlinearity in the closing scenes. One moment Anam amevaa nguo amekuwa nazo during the ritual, the next moment amevaa the cream garments za ritual performance. Then tunamwona solo kwa keja, then everyone is present including Stella na the lecturer from the architecture class. Wanalia wote once she finally succeeds to do so herself, then the rest appear seemingly lifeless kwa flow. Na for these different iterations, negotiator ana different stances na postures hapo kwa kiti, leaning forward, backward, staring. The very first shot of his sequence, there is a glass next to his feet. Events zina unfold in a way that mirrors the nature of spiritual experiences. Hiyo scene wanalia na tunaona watu in Anam's life in the room as well. That scene reminds me of the masterful juke joint scene kwa Sinners, where Ryan Coogler na depict history ya black music because of amalgamating different characters and timelines. Ni spiritual na dreamlike, though when they're breaking down inaka forced for some characters and the close shots don't help the situation. Details ka sisi kutaona some specific characters tena. Think about the people negotiator showed up with at the Bales, speak to the mystery na nonlinearity ya experiences za kifo, grief na rituals. They exist nje ya rules za the observable na agreed upon reality. Still, I can't help but ask questions and wonder about fate ya the two mourners who join Anam na pia guard mwenye aliwa receive wakiingia. Concern ingine, when water gushes out of Mason Ebale's mouth, VFX hapo ni shaky. Also, that amount of water doesn't seem to have any tangible impact on the floor of the house. When Anam is negotiating Zara asingie kijani, we see the water seemingly returning to a singular source, but impact ya hiyo torrent haionekani sakafuni. Depth and nuance. One of the ways Anam's wake carries depth na nuance ni through falsafa, kuhusu maisha, kifo na grief, na who we are and who or what we become after defining moments. The other ni through its multicultural approach, which is the framework for the film's cosmos in a blend of different African cultural and spiritual practices. Hii framework can include lugha, a core element, but I'll discuss that later separately. Ingine ni through dynamism na fluidity ya characters, mainly na highlight 3 of them. Anam, 1, anabea irony ya kuguide wengine, but haja deal with the unresolved within her. Ni student wa architecture whose external design is solid and functional, but is internally empty. Though as far as a character development, waandishi have explored the depth and breadth of the cost and weight of the mom's death na yeye kuto grieve. 2, When Anam is required to be herself and Zara simultaneously, she taps into her prowess na range. We see this fluidity pia when James Ebale is Anam's mother na when the negotiator is too. 3. Ni concept ya Anam, who's the professional mourner, kufanya hii ritual, alafu amidst the chaos that unfolds, she ends up mourning her mother 16 years later, crying inconsolably as she hugs Ebale's body. That to me is the most powerful, poetic and poignant scene kwa hii film. 4. The conversations between Anam and the mom and Anam and negotiator. Ana relay her frustrations na anger. Kila mtu niamulia, no one cares about kile anataka, but that's over. I am breaking free, I am me. Akiongea na the mom tena kando ya the fireplace, ndio anamwambia hapendi that you made death our business. Negotiator, besides his mystique na command, anakuwa humanized towards the end, akireveal to Anam concerns zake about passage ya time na the consequent change, na akimwambia his agenda ya kutaka mtu atamjudge time yake ikifika. Parts of their exchange drag. Humanizing negotiator inaonesha range, but nilikuwa najiuliza ka the impetus ni valid na therefore ka the output ni believable. Modernity na vitu kuchange na umekuwa here since mwanzo wa mortality. Hii exchange ilikuwa na moments contrived. Amani, 1, inaanza na jina, ni peacemaker. She's the last born who wants everything to transpire seamlessly, but she's ignored. 2, she gets possessed and draws eerie images kwa drawing pad yake. She's connected to the spiritual realm as well. Anam believes her craziness and tells her akae na Ebale's body ndio achore in case a moment happens. Drawings zake ndio zina foreshadow some of the events that occur later na zina reveal vile Ebale murdered Zara. Swali langu ni, for Amani, does this start after he dies? Na story ni ipi hapo? Tungepata mo. Pia, yeye kutokea na the document, the certificate, I believe with Zara's name slightly eroded, it seemed abrupt na out of nowhere. Kugusia a few things about other characters. Kuadisia something to point ya majina, Mason, Zuri, Amani. Think about their names na their character traits. Speaking of, each of the Ebales undergoes a character arc which ends up in a defining moment when Anam invites them to approach James Ebale's body to have their final word. Mason says, I am not you. Zuri says, alingoja, na she wanted him to call, but saying hapati anything from her, but just a goodbye. Kwame says, I am not invisible. Halafu Amani expresses umuhimu wa remembering. Since tuko kwa the Ebales, after Mason apoteze sauti yake, he physically struggles in that moment, but afterwards akiwa amekaa chini, as events zina unfold, kuna moments he comes off flat. Hakai mtu ametoka kupoteza sauti ama mtu ana contend with the peculiarities occurring kwa keja yao, especially for such a domineering figure. Aunt Kavata naye Hakai ameishi miaka 16 after kifo cha mama Anam dadake. Her collapsing attempts kuonyesha impact ya aging, but physically her body doesn't translate it. Njia ingine kukari depth na nuance ni through symbols. Ya kwanza, James Ebale's house. Nimesema hii ndio the locus of transformation since hapa ndio our central characters are foregrounded na their arcs evolve. Besides that, the symbolism has to do with the recurring motif central to the film ya passage, kusaidia the dead wapite to the next stage seamlessly. Hii keja ya runda ndio the pathway to revelation, closure na transition. Tunajua about Zara's death na vile her transition haikuwa smooth. Nyawera amekuwa akizunguka restlessly for 16 years. She appears and asks her daughter to allow her to finally rest. Ebale's ritual is for him kutransition vyema. Hata Mason anatishia Anam akimwambia isi familia anadai kumess with. Initially, this reads ka a general statement in reference to the influence of the wealthy, but in retrospect, it could be alluding to Ebale murdering Zara. Kitu kingine, the house as boundary. Doors are closed, no one leaves hadi shughuli ishe. Anam instructs the Ebales. Akipeana instructions to mourners wenzake, anawambia how ndio boundary ya repel the unwelcome. So the house is both a boundary and a portal between reality and the spiritual world. Events then unfold within those walls and outside them when Zara possesses the body of one of the mourners convey this. Apart from the social commentary on the wealthy and the death of their social life after they die, juu watu hawajatokea, it's a detail that allows the family to confront their dark secrets kifamilia. Pia, the house is spacious enough to allow the characters to move na interact while being intimate enough to carry the gravity na intensity ya the story. Wana operate in a familiar space. Tunaona vile bodies ina interact in their habitat. After God amekubalia the mourners kuingia, as the gate closes behind Anam, kuna shot inamuonyesha akitembea towards this grand house which contrasts her tiny frame. Ina represent the grand task ahead of her. For the Ebales, the shadow work happens internally. Anam hana hiyo privilege, but her moment happens amongst these strangers whom she briefly creates this bond with because of her critical role in their patriarch's ritual. Through the Ebales and during her first ritual to lead, she gets her breakthrough. Symbol ingine, water. Bado najaribu kuielewa, but ni integral to the story. Some guesses, maji as a life-giving force, contrasted na death, a connection to fluidity, characters, idea, cleansing, niambie your interpretations. Inaanza na negotiator and his mysterious glass. At first it's empty, later anaiprofa ikiwa na maji out of nowhere, alafu kwa ending it appears next to his feet, water gushes out of Mason's mouth akidanganya, alafu Ebale alidrown Zara majini. Through water, Anam visits the past kujua what happened to Zara, na anasafiri to event tofauti kugundua more truths kujihusu. Anajua vile Zara, mamake na negotiator wako intertwined, na vile Zara's death imelead to what's happening kwa the Ebales 16 years later. It's another action cut that makes a great transition from Anam's head being submerged to Zara's face gasping for breath in the water. The full bathtub inaniacha nikiweigh how much of this murder was premeditated. Haya, tuzungumzie lugha kidogo. First,
Luru dakanye. Ekor. Tuakitikanye. Ewer.
That motif anchors Anam's wake and is so powerful. Second, commendable linguistic performance from the cast. Third, hybridity. The Luo is an intrinsic part of the film. Its cosmology is solely Luo, juu kuna creative liberties wanachukua. Remember the multicultural approach nilitaja? Now, the linguistic hybridity in a mirror our hybridized identity, switching from the Luo to English na Swahili. Inatuonyesha different worldviews, cultures na philosophies of the characters and as born of those languages themselves. Swala langu ni the code switching isn't consistently fluid, believable and needed, which brings me to fourth, profundity. Nimewaza kuhusu idea ya lugha na profundity for several years now, connection ya Kiingereza na idea ya profundity, which tunaona hapa. One of my reactions when I first watched the teaser was, mbona anaongelesha death in English?
You may enter.
Since the Luo ndio the entry point to the world of the supernatural, kuna a missed linguistic opportunity in exploring and writing certain concepts using it. Having the anchoring motif, which is connected to song, the drum, na ritual, vitu integral to Africa, ingekuwa fascinating kuona a further linguistic na cultural exploration. Notes on a few more things. Silence. If only ningeacha hiyo part hivyo, alafu niende to the next. If only. Ni a core part of the film, especially for the Ebales na Anam. Negotiator na compel to contemplate the price of the unsaid, the hidden, the buried. Motifs. Kuna the obvious one. Ingine ni shot ya mguu ya negotiator when Anam teleports to the past kujua how Zara died. This flashback evokes another flashback vile aliingia kwa the Ebales the first time. Upon her entry kwa both scenes, a man and a woman argue upstairs. James na Zara, Mason na Zuri. Anam anatoa cotton toka mdomo ya James and shouts, "Speak!" a few times. James says, "Forgive me." Forgive me is also what Anam's mom says to her. After, Anam shouts, "Speak!" again to no response. When James speaks again, ni chata ya multiple people seeking kusikika. A person like him collects. Negotiator says, hii ndio alisema ni role yake ka negotiator. Collect. Hizo motifs na other recurring elements show the significance of something, emphasize an idea, show someone's character, and foreground a concept. Spirituality. The dead open their eyes 3 days after they die. Wanaongea. From James to Zara and Nyawera. James anadai forgiveness. Zara anadai kuwa felt and remembered. Nyawera wants rest. Life and death blur in that depict how we contend with these concepts and how ziko intertwined in African spirituality. How the world of the dead affects the world of the living, na vice versa. African spirituality who are predicated on continuity. Fate. Anam anazushia negotiator. Akimwambia, so you planned this is what you wanted. Hii ni part of consideration yake akijudge negotiator. After ku-unravel vile fate ya the significant events za 16 years ago zimelead to the present, Anam kusema kila mtu humwamulia vitu, so she's breaking free, is an attempt at ku-control her destiny. Or was this also predestined? Tradition and modernity, the age-old. Negotiator anaambia Anam apprehensions zake, rituals zinapotea, belief inadissipate, story ya modernity, science, vigils, hospitals, parlors, and more. Ritual na teknolojia, the smartphone. Mason's phone ile anaambiwa situmie rings mid-ritual, disrupting a sacred process. Tena, mid-ritual, phone ya one of the two mourners outside vibrates and interlinks the mourner, Zara, and the Ebales. Tena, mid-ritual, kuna huyu mtu anarecord Anam during the second ritual ceremony of the film. Anam's outfit during her moment of truth, single was a ritual. Her colleagues dress up. She doesn't. Despite intentionality, this hints to her stepping into her own. Only in the end, akifaulu kuwail, ndio tunamuona na the cream garments. Professional mourning versus architecture. After a night at Awake, Stella nauliza Anam kuhusu future yake. Once she graduates after 8 months, 7 actually, as Anam corrects, kata pursue architecture. Kile atafanya besides kazi ya kulialia. Stella's worldview inamposition ka vessel ya hii discourse ya tradition na modernity. Humor. A tool that Likarion uses to change pace, mood, kushift perspective na emotion and kucontrast ideas. Kuna huyo msee na tenje akirecord Anam, Kavata's comments akirespond to the girl talking to Anam after the wake, then some comments to Anam shortly after. Baadaye, Kavata akiwa hosi, she drops a barrage of funny statements. Vile she's alive, kuonyesha the doctors, she's important, lungs zake zina rest. Alafu anaambia Anam achague strong women juu hataki watu kufaint kwa matajiri. Stella na Anam's conversation, the most hilarious. Horrified, Mason anadungia pastor wake akimwambia, pastor, now is the time to pray. And after a deeply heartfelt moment Anam has with the mom negotiator suddenly asks, what have you decided? It momentarily breaks the gravity. Hizo ndio the notes on a few more things. If you're here, makofi. Tutapiga makofi. You have taken time. Asante sana for doing so. Jua umevunja algorithms kadhaa. Brilliant work by Likarion and team. Tuendelea kuwaza pamoja kwa comments about this refreshing, thrilling must watch.